It's time for Recipe of the Day. The 4th of July is coming right up, and I have an amazing grilling recipe for you. It is for grilled Flanken style beef ribs. So delicious, so easy. There's something so fun about eating them. If you are looking for some beefy grilling ideas, this is it. So first, what are Flanken style beef ribs? Okay, so you're probably familiar with short ribs. Beef short ribs, they're, often served on polenta in this nice gravy. They have a nice chunky meaty texture with usually one bone per big cube of meat. Now, these are the exact same meat, these Flanken style beef short ribs, except instead of cutting each one on its bone in a chunk, these are sliced through several bones, and you end up with a thin cut of meat that's studded with these pieces of bone. If you've ever had Korean short ribs called kalbi, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I have done a little research to find out, but it is spelled Galbi. If you've had that before, then you've had these, because that is the cut that they use for this. Now, what I find interesting about this Flanken cut is that it's a little bit different from that English-style chunkier cut in the best way to cook it. So with that chunky piece of meat, it's got a lot of fat and sinew. It's kind of tough, and so that's why we braise them, or they go in the Instant Pot, that kind of thing. That's how we make short ribs. And I will, of course, link to my English-style short rib recipe for you. But these ones are much thinner. They're long, thin pieces of meat. And if you actually go to the link to the recipe for this on cookthestory.com, or if you go to Cook the Story and type in Flanken in the search, you'll find them and you'll see the comparison shot between the thin cut Flanken, some thicker cut Flanken that also go across those bones, and then the more traditional, what we're used to, English style short ribs as well. So you can see those. If you have the thicker cut Flanken, you're going to want to cook those like the English style. They need that slow cooking to break them down. But for these thin cut Flanken ribs, you actually don't need to braise them at all. They're amazing on the grill. And that's just because they have that nice thinness to them, which means that our teeth don't have to cut through very much. And so we perceive it as more tender, even though it hasn't all been broken down. But it has all that nice fat marbling in there, really juicy, and it kind of sizzles on the grill and gets that nice crunchiness on the outside. And then it's nice and tender because it's not so thick, not so hard to chew through. So that is what's going on there. And that's why we cook these differently from those chunkier pieces. Now, I will say that because these are being cooked quickly like that, they do benefit from a little bit of a marinade, especially one with a fairly high salt content, because that is going to act a bit like a brine and tenderize a little bit. So I do recommend that. But because these are so thin, they don't need to be in it for very long. 30 minutes to an hour is going to do ya. And the recipe for the marinade brine that I'm sharing with you does have some Asian flavors going on. So it's reminiscent to that Korean style, but that's not exactly what I'm doing. Really, what I want to show you is how to cook these, the kind of marinade you want to use, then how to cook them and make them amazing no matter what kind of flavor profile you want to go with. You see what I mean? They are super easy and I am obsessed with them. They are so good. So we're going to start by making that marinade in a medium-sized bowl. Whisk together a half cup of cooking oil. I like something very neutral flavored here, not like olive oil, but maybe a grapeseed oil or a vegetable oil. And then you're doing 2 limes, a zested and juiced. If you have those limes anyways, you want that lime flavor, why not zest them and get that in there? You could do 1 lemon instead of the 2 limes if you wanted to. 3 tablespoons of packed brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons Dijon mustard, and then 2 tablespoons of either sriracha or gochujang. That is a Korean spicy red sauce that's going to bring tons of flavor. So either of those are going to work. And also a tablespoon of salt in there and 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. You could use fresh garlic, but because these are only marinating for 30 minutes to an hour, I don't find that it really penetrates as well as when it's in garlic powder form. So that is just my preference there. Whisk that all together and then either put it into a zip top bag or into a baking dish. And then you're adding 1.5 pounds of those thin cut Flanken beef ribs. If yours are cut about a 1/2 inch thick, you're going to find that's about 5 to 6 pieces of the ribs. Make sure they are fully submerged in that marinade and then refrigerate them in it for 30 minutes to an hour. Then you're going to preheat that grill for direct cooking over high heat. Now, I am not telling you to take the ribs out of the fridge before preheating the grill. I actually want them to go on cold, and that is just because the colder they are, the rarer they will be inside as they crisp up on the outside. So when you want something to be more like medium, then you're going to have it be cold, and that will be easier for it to stay that way. In the case of these flanken ribs, it is true that because they're so thin, they don't need to be on the grill for very long. And so it's hard to get that nice, wonderful, crispy crust on the outside without overcooking the inside. So anything that we can do to help that, cold ribs is going to be it in this case. That's what we're going to do. So when your grill is ready for direct cooking over high heat, you're going to take those ribs out of the liquid, just kind of shake off any excess marinade. It's good to have some on there because it is going to darken a little bit, which is going to help with what I was just talking about, getting that nice brown crust on the outside before they're overcooked inside, right? Okay, then those ribs are going in a single layer on the grill right over the direct heat until you start seeing some dark char marks underneath. It's going to take 4 to 5 minutes. Halfway through that, if you want to, you can turn them like 90 degrees to try and get those hash marks, but I like to just leave them in place and let them get really good color in the places that are getting color. Then flip and cook until the other side is a little bit charred underneath as well, and then remove and serve. I will say a couple things about this. So if you wanted to cook these in a pan in a heavy skillet instead of on the grill, you can. I would just wipe off more of the marinade first because it will start to burn in that pan. So other than that, it's pretty much the same. You want like medium high heat until they start to darken underneath and then flip them over. It's pretty much the same. It's going to take about the same amount of time, 4 to 5 minutes per side, probably. And then I like to serve these garnished with some chopped up green onion, some cilantro, and some charred chilies. So the best way to do that is right when your grill is ready for cooking over direct heat, but before you've taken those ribs out of the fridge, put some jalapenos, some red chilies right on the grill, turn them, get them a little charred, then take them off, let those cool while your ribs start cooking, and then when you get a minute, slice them up, and they are so good. A little smoky from that grill flavor and spicy. Love it. Okay, I'll put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is June 29th of 2025. And if you want more amazing recipe ideas for the 4th of July for grilling, follow me on social media. I am Cook the Story pretty much everywhere. That is TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. Those are my main places. Cook the Story. I can't wait to see you there. Make sure you comment, say hi. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.